Imagine inviting someone into your home, someone you trust with your most precious space, only to discover they aren't even human. What if the very person you welcomed into your life was the reason your dreams were turning into nightmares? This is the chilling tale of Kelvin and Divine, a wealthy couple who hired a house help to ease their busy lives, only to uncover a terrifying secret. Cynthia, their seemingly perfect housegirl, hides a dark and unholy truth. She's not who she claims to be, and every night she transforms into a deadly serpent to wreak havoc on their lives. Can they expose her evil and save their family before it's too late? Kelvin and Divine had it all, or so it seemed. Living in a sprawling mansion in a high-end neighborhood in Lagos, they were the epitome of success. Kelvin was a renowned architect with projects across Africa, while Divine was a top-notch corporate lawyer whose name carried weight in the courtroom. Their combined wealth made them a power couple many envied, but beneath the luxury was a nagging void. The couple was desperately trying for a child. Their schedules were intense. Early mornings blurred into late nights, and their mansion began to feel more like a hotel. Chores piled up, and Divine, already exhausted, struggled to keep things in order. It was Kelvin who suggested they hire a live-in house help. "We need someone reliable," he said one evening, sipping a glass of wine. "Someone who will keep things running smoothly." Divine agreed. The search began, and after several interviews, they found her. Cynthia. Cynthia arrived with glowing references. She was in her mid-20s, with a calm demeanor and a smile that could put anyone at ease. Her soft-spoken nature immediately won Divine over, and her first few days on the job were flawless. The house was spotless, meals were ready on time, and Divine felt she could finally breathe. Cynthia seemed like a godsend, but there was something peculiar about her. Kelvin noticed it first. "She's too quiet," he remarked one evening, "almost like she's watching everything." Divine brushed it off. "She's just shy, don't overthink it." But as days turned into weeks, Cynthia began to take control of the house. She seemed to know every corner of the mansion, even places she hadn't been shown. And though Divine couldn't put her finger on it, there was something unsettling about the way Cynthia moved. Graceful, almost unnatural. Months later, Divine finally got the news she had been waiting for. She was pregnant. Tears streamed down her face as she showed Kelvin the positive test. "We're going to be parents," she whispered, her voice trembling. Cynthia seemed genuinely happy for them. She even prepared a special dinner to celebrate. But as the weeks passed, Divine noticed small things. How Cynthia's eyes lingered on her growing belly a little too long, or how her smile seemed forced when Kelvin talked about the baby. One night, Divine woke up to a strange sensation. Her room was unusually cold, and a heaviness pressed against her stomach. "Kelvin, wake up," she whispered, her voice trembling. But when she turned to him, he was sound asleep. She brushed it off as a dream. A week later, tragedy struck. Divine started bleeding and was rushed to the hospital. She had lost the baby. The doctors were baffled, unable to pinpoint a cause. Divine was devastated, but she told herself it was just bad luck. Months passed, and life returned to a semblance of normalcy. Divine threw herself into work, determined to keep her mind occupied. Kelvin, ever the supportive husband, stood by her side, but the loss left a scar neither of them could ignore. One night, Divine woke again to that eerie chill. The air felt heavy and her stomach ached. She sat up in bed, her eyes darting around the room. That's when she saw it, a shadow near the door. It was faint, but it moved. Divine froze, her heart pounding. "Kelvin," she whispered, shaking him awake. But by the time he stirred, the shadow was gone. "You're stressed," Kelvin said, holding her close. "It's probably just your mind playing tricks." But Divine couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. When Divine got pregnant again, hope blossomed anew. Kelvin was overjoyed, and even Cynthia seemed thrilled. "I'll take extra care of you, madam," she promised. But the strange sensations returned. Every few nights, Divine would wake to the same icy chill and the suffocating weight on her stomach. Kelvin tried to comfort her, insisting it was just stress. But then, it happened again. Another miscarriage. This time, Divine couldn't ignore the sense of dread that loomed over her home. She began watching Cynthia more closely. There was something about her movements at night, how she disappeared into the shadows after everyone else had gone to bed. But Divine couldn't bring herself to confront her. Not yet. Divine began to notice the little things. How Cynthia's shadow seemed larger than her frame. How her presence seemed to darken a room. One evening, Divine caught Cynthia staring at her reflection in the kitchen window, her lips moving as if she were chanting something. "Cynthia, are you okay?" Divine asked, her voice laced with unease. Cynthia spun around, her smile plastered back in place. "Yes, madam. I was just thinking." Divine's unease grew, but when she brought it up to Kelvin, he brushed it off. "She's just a girl trying to do her job," he said. "Don't let your imagination run wild." But Divine couldn't shake the feeling that Cynthia was far more than she appeared to be. Divine was driving home from a court hearing one evening when she decided to stop by a roadside fruit stand. As she picked out oranges, an elderly woman nearby struggled to carry a basket of yams. Feeling a surge of compassion, Divine offered to help her. "God bless you, my child," the old woman said, her weathered hands resting on Divine's. Then, suddenly, her expression changed. Her eyes seemed to pierce into Divine's soul. "Your home is in danger," she said softly. Divine froze. "What do you mean?" "There's a serpent in your house," the woman whispered. "It's close to you, but its intentions are evil. You must pray and seek help before it destroys you." Divine felt chills crawl up her spine. She wanted to dismiss the woman as delusional, but something in her tone felt terrifyingly real. She thanked the woman and drove home, her thoughts spiraling into doubt and fear. Divine's paranoia grew. That night, she pretended to sleep but kept a close eye on Cynthia. Around midnight, she noticed Cynthia leaving her quarters and heading toward the backyard. Quietly, Divine followed her, staying hidden in the shadows. What she saw chilled her to the bone. Cynthia knelt in the center of the garden, surrounded by candles. She was muttering in a strange language, her hands raised to the sky. Divine's breath hitched when she saw a small snake slither up to Cynthia and coil around her arm as though it belonged there. Terrified, Divine hurried back to her room. She lay awake the rest of the night, her mind racing. Was this the serpent the old woman warned her about? Was Cynthia responsible for her miscarriages? The next morning, Divine confided in Kelvin, telling him everything she had seen. "You're letting your imagination get the better of you," Kelvin said, shaking his head. "She's just a girl from the village. Maybe she was praying in her own way." "Praying with a snake on her arm?" Divine retorted, her voice rising. "Kelvin, this isn't normal." Kelvin sighed, rubbing his temples. "We're under a lot of stress. Maybe you should take a break, Divine. Go on a retreat or something." Divine felt a pang of frustration. Why wouldn't he believe her? She decided she couldn't rely on Kelvin to see what she was seeing. She would have to find answers on her own. Divine remembered the leaflet the elderly woman had slipped into her hand before they parted. It bore the name of a pastor renowned for his spiritual insight. Desperate for answers, Divine visited the church that weekend. The pastor listened intently as she recounted her suspicions. When she finished, he nodded solemnly. "Your house help is not who she claims to be," he said. "She is a spirit from the marine kingdom, sent to destroy your family." Divine's heart sank. The pastor advised her to bring Cynthia to the church for deliverance. He also warned her to remain prayerful and vigilant. "The battle has just begun," he said. Divine returned home with a renewed determination. That night, she shared the pastor's advice with Kelvin. Though still skeptical, he agreed to help her set a trap. The plan was simple. They would pretend to be asleep and observe Cynthia's movements. If she exhibited any strange behavior, they would confront her. That night, the couple lay in bed, feigning sleep. Around midnight, they heard the creak of a door. Divine held her breath as Cynthia entered their room, moving with eerie silence. In the dim light, they saw her form begin to change, her skin rippling and darkening, her body elongating. Kelvin's eyes widened in horror as Cynthia transformed into a massive snake. Divine let out a scream, startling Cynthia, who turned her glowing eyes toward them before slithering out of the room. The following morning, Divine and Kelvin cornered Cynthia in the kitchen. "We know what you are," Divine said, her voice trembling but firm. Cynthia laughed, a cold, chilling sound. "You think you can stop me?" she hissed, her eyes flashing with malice. Kelvin grabbed his car keys. "You're coming with us to the church," he said, his voice filled with authority. Cynthia tried to resist, but Kelvin's determination and Divine's prayers seemed to weaken her resolve. At the church, the pastor wasted no time. He and his prayer team began a deliverance session, and Cynthia writhed and screamed as the prayers intensified. Her body twisted unnaturally, and at one point her arms and legs appeared to meld into her torso. "I was sent to destroy her womb," Cynthia shouted, her voice distorted. "The Marine Kingdom promised me power if I succeeded." The congregation gasped, and Divine sobbed into Kelvin's shoulder. This was no longer a fight for their family. It was a spiritual war. The deliverance lasted hours. Cynthia's true nature was exposed, and her connection to the Marine Kingdom was severed through intense prayers. At one point, a blinding light seemed to fill the room, and Cynthia collapsed, unconscious. When she awoke, she was a different person. She begged for forgiveness, claiming she had been forced into the Marine Kingdom as a child and had no choice but to obey their commands. As the couple left the church, they were approached by the elderly woman who had warned Divine. She revealed that she was a spiritual intercessor sent by God to help them. "Your destiny is too great to be destroyed," she said, her voice firm. "Guard your home with prayer." Though Cynthia was gone, Divine began having terrifying dreams of serpents attacking her and Kelvin. The pastor warned them that the Marine Kingdom would not give up easily. Together, the couple embarked on a 40-day prayer and fasting journey, asking God for protection. During this time, Kelvin underwent a profound spiritual awakening. He became the spiritual head of the household, leading prayers and studying scripture. Divine admired this new side of him, and their bond grew stronger than ever. The Marine Kingdom made one last attempt to reclaim control. One night, Kelvin and Divine were attacked in their dreams, but their prayers shielded them. In the dream, a voice declared, "This household belongs to God." The snakes retreated, and peace finally returned. Divine soon discovered she was pregnant again. This time there were no strange sensations, no cold touches, and no miscarriages. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, and the couple prepared joyfully for their baby's arrival. 9 months later, Divine gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The couple hosted a lavish naming ceremony, inviting family, friends, and even the elderly woman. As they held their son, they thanked God for delivering them from evil. Their joy was complete, and their story became a testament of faith and victory.